You're listening to the Shipyard Cat Podcast, the unofficial SAFC podcast for fans everywhere.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the pod. We're here today to discuss that emphatic 3-0 win over West Ham. Obviously, we'll be talking goals galore, the style of the play that we played, and the game itself. Obviously, goals coming from Mayenda, Ballard, and finally was Isidore to wrap all things up. Joining me to discuss this, though, we have Robin and we have Kev. How are you today, Robin?
Yeah, I'm ecstatic. Let's face it. 600-mile round trip, well worth it. There's nothing more to say, really, is there?
Exactly. And Kev, likewise, yourself, you had the shorter journey.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to think Robin basically did the journey that their fans did. So, yeah, quite a trek. Yeah, mate, I'm absolutely buzzing. What a way to start our season, and what a way to show people that we're not just here to, get an attendance medal.
Mm-hmm. First thing I'm going to say is brilliant attendance. We brought the noise from minute zero, all the way to the end, which is what we said at the beginning of last pod. We need to bring that noise. And first things first, lads, we're second in the league. And what a tifo to bring us into the mix of the Premier League. Obviously, for those that are not aware or have seen on our Twitter, it was synonymous with the Lambton Worm. But what a way to start the Premier League season and show off our history. That was a big thing for me, seeing that in the ground. What was it like for yourselves? Because obviously we all sit in different places in the stadium. Robin, I'll come to you first from your viewpoint.
I'm closer to that end than what Kev is, so Kev probably got some better shots of it than I did. But yeah, look, it's fantastic. Local legend, I really like that. It's about, we've seen it with the third shirt and that and the Black Cats, and in the back of it talking about the nickname of the club and stuff. I really like the fact that they're really going on the historical side of things, and they're pushing the local history and everything and that. We are a club which is deep rooted in the community, and Kirill, as the latest custodian of the club, seems to have worked that one out. I think it's absolutely great. I love the tifo. Yeah, I've seen some negative bits online and that, and I've just ignored it, to be honest. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, look, sitting near the tunnel, it was from where we were, you could see the whole thing, the whole wording, the actual tifo itself, everything just looked brilliant. To be honest, I thought the stadium did. I know it's still going through a bit of a tarting up phase, shall we say, out the front, but the actual sort of the effort being made in the concourses, everything it screamed, we're back. And I really, really liked that. I thought it was a nice sort of welcome to the stadium for all the fans. And for me, the tifo was kind of, like you said, Adam, a bit of a nod to the history of the club in terms of the area. And I just think in general, it set the precedent. I probably think we'll have tifos at a lot more games. And hopefully they've all got a little bit of a meaning like this one did, so that when the likes of Arsenal turn up, with their tifos, when they're at their ground with that awful cannon, which just looked cheap and awful when they did it, they'll come to our ground, watch us do it and go, well, here's a proper club doing it.
Indeed. We'll give our flowers to Chris nice and early, because obviously Chris was manning the Twitter for us whilst we were at the game. We were sending him the stuff, and Chris doing his duties, shall we say, and keeping everybody back at home and overseas on board with what was going on from there. So well done to Chris. Let's just get into the nitty gritty then straight away. The game itself, as we mentioned there at the very beginning, it finished 3-0. We'll cover the goals in just a few moments. But bar the, I would say, one little scare that Ballard cleared off the line, to me, I think we looked very comfortably against a very anointed West Ham squad.
Yeah, I mean, there was the first few minutes. I think obviously Bowen went through, hit a right foot shot, which obviously Ruff's turned around a post for a corner for them. Yeah, there was a good bit of play with Bowen and then Fulkrug, which then led to the shot which Ballard cleared because he had beaten the keeper. To be fair, just great astute defending by him. And then apart from that, I think the next sort of save of anything was, it come off Wilson's back, which Russ tipped over. He got a lot of plaudits from the crowd, obviously, as you know, chanting his name. Some people getting confused, thinking that we were saying Hume, but obviously it was Roofs, and it's a very similar thing. I mean, I think we controlled the game pretty well. Yeah, West Ham did have probably the best of the first half. I think may have been a few nerves on our behalf, but we looked a different team second half. I think we got over that. I think, probably the message was go out, don't concede first half, don't concede 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, then 45, hit out at half time, which obviously the lads did. And I think, obviously Regis probably then gave him a bit of instruction in the second half, at half time to go out and then start looking attackingly. To me, I don't know if you'll agree with the big changing point. Unfortunately for Jensen was when he went down injured. It looked like he was going to be okay. He went off. He seemed to be, walking. He was jumping up and down and that. And then as he jogged on the pitch, he just collapsed again. Hoping it's nothing too serious. But what a substitution to be able to make. Bruno Morales ready. Because, I mean, the assist for the first goal. I mean, it's just that level up. And to be honest, I noticed a couple of other things, obviously with Ballard's goal, with obviously Adingra putting the ball in. Because I was thinking at times, these players are tired and that, and I was thinking, obviously, if we'd brought Roberts on, and look, we're all going to romanticise about the fact it'd be nice to have Ahmad back. But then I'm thinking, would we have put them balls in the box? Definitely not. And I think that's the thing. I think it's changed. To me, we'd all love Ahmad back in the squad. I mean, I don't want to go on about him too much because obviously we want to talk about our lads, but I don't see him getting in that team now because we're playing a different style of football. And that style of football, with starting with a goalkeeper and that, we were quite comfortable passing the ball around at the back in midfield and that. But when they saw the opportunity, they were putting the ball over the top.
Yeah.
Hitting the space. I mean, my only frustration at times is that people didn't see Talby's runs because he was looking all the time for that ball over the top to use his pace and getting behind. And you could see him getting quite frustrated at times because he was making these brilliant runs and the ball just wasn't coming to him. And I think once we've got that being sorted with the timing, he's going to be an absolutely amazing player this season for us.
I think we're slowly going to start seeing players that were not rated during pre-season come into their own as they grow in confidence. I mean, for me, Adringa, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. To be confident enough to try and take on two or three players at a time and play the passes that he did, brilliant. You could tell he's done this before, albeit as a partial play, substitute here and a bit part here. I thought he just showed what he was all about. I thought he did really well. Talby, I think, is just going to get better. That I know we'll go through the goals in a minute, but that third goal for him just to run like he did and then just slow down at the halfway line and be like, right, who's with me? Wilson's off into the distance, and to then almost like make it look like he's going to head across the pitch, to then be like, no, actually, there you go, Wilson, off you go. I mean, then fair play to Wilson with what he does with it, but it was good that a player called Wilson was on the pitch that could actually do something other than try and bully people over. But we'll talk about the clown antic that he did. Yeah, I just thought, when people in preseason were saying, "Oh, Roberts over Talby," I think Robin, I think you put it in the chat, didn't you, saying it's going to be Talby starting this one, and I take my hat off, fair play, because I was one of those people that said I thought it was going to be the other way around. I thought Roberts might have started, and then Talby is the substitute, and well, yeah, Talby did what Talby did.
I mean, look, just to give a bit of foresight into that, I think because obviously I've been over to Augsburg and seen the lads play in Augsburg, which was the same starting 11. I think I'd had a bit of an advantage, obviously, hence my prediction and team selection. I think I'd seen that firsthand, the way they played, because obviously I do believe that Augsburg stream wasn't available in the UK. And it was, I wasn't surprised by that performance at all. I just think we've got some really, really good players in. Obviously, we've got another one through the door today, which I'll let Adam talk about in a bit.
Are you on standby to pronounce his name?
I'm just going to see by his first name.
Yeah, I mean, we know that. So, yeah, but look, I mean, joking aside, I mean, it's another bit of great business. I mean, we've, gone into the Premier League, and to be fair, we're pulling out these absolute gems, whether or not it's Speakman, whether it's Shizolfi. We are the two of them together, the scouting network. We're getting these players, and when we brought in, I think it's 11 players now at a spend of about 160, is it?
Yeah, with the announcement of Nordy, we've beaten Forest.
No. Yeah, I think with that, we're not spending, like Liverpool type money, Florian Wirtz, 135 million or whatever it is on one player. We're completely rejuvenated the squad, took it up to a level that's necessary to compete in the Premier League, and done it within a sort of sensible budget, because it's well within the PSR limits that we've got this season. I think the PSR limits this season we're looking at something like 230 million. Before we even contemplate getting anywhere near trouble. Obviously, you see certain fans of other clubs saying, we're cheating because we're spending this money. We're not. We're not cheating at all. We're well within the PSR rules. We've had some really good management the last few years. Since Kirill's come in, the appointment of Speakman, the players that we've got in, etc. The balancing of the books. I mean, look, I've said it before. I do feel that obviously Donald and Methven do need a little bit of credit for what they did, because they made the hard decisions. With the closing of shops and things and making certain people redundant and getting rid of the cryo chambers and things like that. They made those hard decisions that needed to be done at the time to keep the club afloat. Obviously people will go there, their chances and that, they never had the money to do it. No, they didn't. But the fact is they did what was necessary at the time to keep us in business. You look at what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment. What's going on with Morecambe in the National League. Obviously what happened to Bury before. It could have been us. So, fair play to them too for coming in, making those hard decisions and putting the club into a position where we're then attractive to buy. Hence KLD coming in. Yeah, once the story had a bit to do with it as well. But yeah, the money we're spending, it's our money sort of thing. It's been because we've been managed properly. And everything's working out. And yeah, I mean, to get these players in. I know I'm rambling on a bit now, but to talk about the project, I mean, what on earth are they selling these players?
Yeah.
What are they saying to them?
Mhm.
Getting Granit Xhaka, obviously, the lad that's coming today, Mukiela, he's, spoke to Xhaka because he was at Leverkusen with him. I mean, this is the lad that PSG signed, I mean, apart from obviously Mishu, who was sort of like PSG reserve slash younger team, to get someone who's established in the first team through the door, I mean, what are we saying to them?
Yeah, that's the thing for me, because as you said there, it was a shame to see Seal go off the way he did. I just want to talk now goals. It is a shame for him. Hopefully, it is just a little knock. Um, but I think Aldrete has made a point to prove to say you cannot now take me out of the team. Just the composure he had on the ball, he looked resolute. Him and Ballard together looked a decent partnership. It didn't look out of place, because I believe Aldrete only had something like 45 minutes of pre-season, so it's been told to come on to effectively for his debut to be able to pull off a performance like that, and the ball that he put in for my end to get that header on was sensational. It mind blowing. And what made it was nice for me was the fact being that I'm going to touch on him again later on when we talk about Wilson's goal, because I feel like he was kind of pivotal to that as well in making a jolt run, if that makes sense. I'll explain what I mean in a second, but obviously lovely timed header by Mayenda, followed by then, as Kev was saying there about Dringan being not afraid to take a couple of men on, to once again whip that ball in at pace for Ballard to do Ballard's things. which was, if I'm right in thinking, it was the same side of the net that he scored against Coventry. It was just a bit further to the ground instead of to the roof of the net.
He hit it with his
Um,
head rather than the back of his neck. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was a bullet. Like there was not, to me, to be fair, I think there was no keeper could potentially stop that. And then touching on Isidore's goal, I know we're going to break them down individually, but Robin, you alluded to with the Talby run, it looked like he ran, then he stopped and went, wait a second, I'll then play. To me, what I liked is the speed that he got the ball, just about chop in, or Aldrete ran alongside him to go, I'm here if you need, and then stopped and moved backwards, went, actually, look, Isidore's ahead of you, bang. And I think that level of experience and the people we're bringing in, such as Nordy, as you mentioned there, Robin, are going to be pivotal to this season going forward.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. I mean, Robin, you like I say, you saw a lot of this in the preseason, didn't you? So you probably sort of had an inkling of the kind of way we were going to try and break. Obviously, the Rayo game wasn't really a fair comparison because this squad didn't feature. So for me, it was one of them where, yeah, if we play like this week in, week out, sit a little bit deep, absorb the pressure, because we've got the confidence at the back. I mean, that's the big thing to take from this. The the defense looks super calm, and
Mhm.
it's only going to get better with a bit more experience coming in, and also the lads all gelling and playing together.
I mean, when you think, obviously, Hume, Ballard, and Seal, which were with us all last season, starting the game, and all of them looked natural in the Premier League.
Mhm.
And when you think, like, obviously, Jared Bowen is a very, very dangerous player. But they sort of coach with him. Well, obviously, full crew's a handful. German international. Paqueta or Paqueta, depending on how they're going to pronounce his name this week in the press. He's a very, very tricky player. He's obviously got the betting thing lifted from him now, so he can concentrate on his football. But yeah, I mean, those three lads, especially to me, and like I say, I was a bit gutted for Jensen going off the way he did. But it's also made things a lot easier for Regis because he doesn't have to worry about dropping him. So to say, because obviously he's injured, so he's just going to be rotated out the team because obviously Alderete's coming in, he's fit.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And like I say, I mean, the lads that were here last season that played a part in the match didn't look out of place at all. My Ender looked like he belonged in the Premier League. He was quick, he was harrying, he was, fighting the defenders. They didn't know really how to cope with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a great, great performance. I think we've got to hold our hands up to this one and say, look, Lebrie's got this one spot on. The recruitment team's brought these players in which are a natural fit to our team. And in the short space of time that we've had them, Lebrie's got them all sort of singing off the same hymn sheet, as they say.
Yeah. For me, the other thing about the one person I haven't mentioned, because obviously we're just talking about the team as a whole that's done really well. For me, the other stand-up for me was Siddiqui. That kid was all over the pitch. I would love it. I really want to see. I don't know if anybody's made it yet. I want to see his map of the field he didn't cover. Because I think he was everywhere on our pitch.
That's his job, and I think, to be honest, that's why we've bought players like him and Habib Diarra in, because they will run all game long for you. They will keep going until there is no more grass to cover. And when they're finished covering it, they'll probably go back over and cover the same bit twice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These lads are just full of energy, which is why it shocked me so much that we didn't have the substitutions that I was expecting
Yeah.
to take advantage when they were gassed. I mean, let's be honest, at half time, we all probably went, oh, this is quite comfortable. This is all right. This 0-0, we'll take it. Because if anyone noticed, their fans only started with the Adam Johnson crap about half an hour, 40 minutes in when they weren't winning the game. I think if they'd have
Yes.
been winning comfortably, they'd have probably started, singing about their own team. But because they had nothing to sing about and they'd done their three chants, they reverted back to 20 years ago, chanting about the only thing people ever did chant about for us. And I think their fans didn't enjoy it. I genuinely think their fans at half time probably went into the concourse and went, how are we not winning this?
Just before we get Robin's take on that, I have seen a lot on socials from West Ham podcasters, classed as influencers or whatever you want to call them. I have seen a lot of them just turn on and go, we've literally been given a wake-up call by Sunderland. We expected to win 3s, 4-0 ourselves against them. We've just been rocked and we don't know what just hit us. And I think some of the even former players, I said to Robin last night, because Robin rang me while he was on his way home, and I mentioned about one of them big things was Rio Ferdinand. Hasn't given us any time of day this season so far. He's just went, Sunderland will finish rock bottom. On his predictions, he was like, I don't think they're going to do well at all. And I was asked, what do you think? I think it was same as a certain man that wanted us to do bad on Match of the Day last night and didn't have one word to say about us.
Which I
Because
think is pathetic. As a pundit, you should be saying something, even if it's neutral. To just sit there in silence and let Rooney do all the talking, for me, was just pathetic. Because I think if that had been a different result, if we'd have been beaten 3-0, he probably wouldn't have shut up. Rooney probably wouldn't have got a word in.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
because it went the other way, he literally didn't even mention Sunderland.
Yeah.
But the host, Mark, made a comment towards Shearer, and Shearer didn't even answer the question.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how pathetic is that?
Well, they only mustered a draw and had to try and cheat to try and win, and it didn't work.
They couldn't
But
beat a 10-man team. The
exactly.
richest club in the
Right,
world.
let's not get off subject. We're not that kind of pod. Right,
Sorry,
look,
Dad.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate here because
I was going to say it's
Mary,
about time
Mary,
Robin pulls us
look,
back together.
look, Mary Poppins did say, right, that Newcastle fans don't want to admit it and Sunderland fans don't want to admit it, but the Premier League's a better place when both teams are in there.
Mhm.
So he did sort of say that he wants us up there to be in it. Yeah, they'd all love, you know. I mean, let's face it, he was the manager that took them down. Let's not forget that he did get them relegated. Um, but look, I mean that's we could do another pod on that completely. But like I said, we're not that pod. Let's just stick to our lads and what they did. Must say, just going back to the game quickly, one thing that did confuse me and a lot of people around me is obviously the lineup for the handshakes. Um, and then we went to the sort of wrong end. We went out to the Roker end. I don't understand if they'd done the coin costs before
Mm.
and they'd switched us round. Because obviously, normally the coin cost is after you do the handshakes and that you get the two captains in the middle and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But they ran off to you know the end that we normally go to, and it just seemed a bit strange. I don't understand why they did that. The club's not said anything unless there's, like I say, there's a new thing within the Premier League rules that they're doing the coin cost beforehand, so that to speed up the whole thing. Because
Mhm.
obviously there was the minute silence for um, Jota and Silva, the two brothers that died in the car crash, which I must say was absolutely impeccable.
Mhm.
You could have heard a pin drop. Um, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I mean that did confuse me. I was, hoping if someone might know the answer as to why we did that, but it appears that no one really knows.
Yeah. The other thing regarding match one, that the last thing I'll say on the match, and then we'll quickly cover Nordy, is obviously the new ruling for the referees talking to captains only. One thing I did really enjoy about that aspect of it is Xhaka's experience. When we thought there was a handball decision, he pushed all of us away and said, "No, stop crowding the ref, go away, leave it to me. I'll speak to them." And he spoke to the ref and then explained to the lads, this is why it wasn't a handball, which I think is really smart of Jack, and I think that's his experience in a nutshell there.
Um, they did actually bring that rule in a couple of seasons ago, Adam. Just to disappoint you.
No, you know what I mean, though. Like, it was
Yeah,
more
but the
evident in
the
this game.
the rule change this year is the goalkeeper holding the ball.
Yes.
Obviously they're given the sort of time to get up after making a save, so to speak, and then the ref holds up his hands when there's 5 seconds left, counts down, and I must say, you'll probably both agree with me. It shows the quality and the composure by obviously Robin Ruffs. He's not flustered whatsoever. Plenty of time. The ball at his feet, the way he controls the game. I mean, a ball come through, he took it on his chest, rather than having to save it with his hands and, to use some clock up, so to speak. You know, just an absolutely great performance. I mean, when you think there were 7 of those lads out there were making their Sunderland debut,
Mm-hmm.
there was 9 of them that were making their Premier League debut.
Indeed, yeah. Crazy times, but it was brilliant. Um, I'll let Kev quickly give out his thoughts on obviously Nordi coming in from PSG. It was confirmed today for roughly about 12 million euros, and he comes on a 4-year deal. Kev, your thoughts on that? Hopefully, a better left back than Mr. Timothy Pembele from
Yeah, I mean,
PSG.
look, we've never really kind of touched on sort of those players that never came or never were, if that makes sense, like Pembele. brought from PSG, load of promise, and is currently somewhere. He's not in the unders. He's not in the senior squad. He's not on the team numbers, the squad numbers.
Oh,
So
he's
he's
on holiday.
probably, he's probably in an Amazon parcel somewhere being ready to be shipped out by Speakman Logistics. Um, but look, yeah, to bring this lad in from PSG is pretty impressive, to be honest. 2, 3 years ago, he was being linked with Madrid and, you know, Premier League sides that were, you know, competing in Europe. Doug Critchley, he, used to regularly say, Man United are in for him and Tottenham were looking at him. I think even the unwashed were looking at him at one point, but their success with people in the transfer window has not been great. Um, so yeah, for us to get him in and to get him in what felt to us like quite quickly, for me, is really, really impressive business. I mean, if
Mhm.
you watch the little trailer today that they dropped of him meeting Xhaka after the game, Xhaka says, "You've taken your time." So it sounds to me like there's been a conversation going on in the background, potentially between players and, the clubs. But once it was, yeah, let's do this, it seems to have been 2 days. I mean, he was actually at the match,
Yeah.
just after the team bus turned up and then the West Ham coaches turned up. Because they came with two buses. Don't know why, one to carry the players and one to carry their egos, maybe. Um, yeah, he was actually seen getting out of well, a Mercedes minibus, shall we say? One of the famous ones that the club seem to have access to. And was then photographed by a few people walking towards the entrance. And I don't know where he went because he didn't come in the main doors at that point. So maybe he was kind of ushered away, like, don't come in yet. Like, people know who you are. But yeah, I think it's really impressive business. My only concern is who does it displace? You know, if Silt's injury is a big one, then there you go. You instantly know he's been brought in to fill that slot. Um, but is this going to potentially unlock the door for someone like Huggins to go out on a loan?
Mhm.
Potentially, go and get some minutes in anger rather than be on the bench and get 20 minutes here or there. But look, in terms of the signing, I'm not going to waffle on anymore. Unbelievable business.
Yeah, indeed. Um, Robin, do you want to have any thoughts on him quickly before I bring everything to a close?
I mean, look, he's a quality player, isn't he? I do think he's coming to challenge Trey Hume. He can play, his favourite position is right back. He can play right centre as well, which obviously covers Ballard as, so to speak. I do think it's, to do that. I think, like I said on the previous pod, this season we're going to see changes. This is a squad game in the Premier League.
Mhm.
The intensity, which obviously you didn't notice yourselves at the match yesterday, the intensity by both sets of players is on another level.
Indeed,
Now,
yeah.
we're lucky the fact that we've only got one game a week
Mhm.
because we're not in a European competition, so to speak. I mean, the teams that are playing the European competition, it's going to be even harder for those. And hence why you see these big squads in the Premier League. I mean, you wouldn't have thought with 8 less games a season, we'd actually need a bigger squad. But when you see the intensity involved and the
Mhm.
speed of play, yeah, it's understandable. I do think there's a part for everyone. He didn't make a lot of subs for Regis. I think we've sort of realised he's not going to be making tons and tons of subs during games.
Mhm.
The lads he brought on, obviously they got their little taste. Obviously, Aldrete came on early because it was forced. But then Enzo and Wilson coming on, to have their opportunity, and then obviously Rig right at the end for his sort of Premier League debut as well. Um, yeah, I just think we're going to get used to it. I'm not really too worried about the likes of Robertson, Neil, etc., not getting on the pitch, so to speak, at the moment because there's going to come a time during the season that we're going to need them.
But
Yeah,
they're going to
And
probably want
and
time off the pitch. They'll potentially be on it quite a while if we end up in that position.
yeah, exactly. That's what it's about. I do think that we are going to rotate. I don't think that look the press are going to talk. Social media is going to go absolutely haywire like it always does. Let's not believe you know, the new account on X, that gives himself a blue tick and pays for it just to try and stir the pot a bit.
Yeah, indeed.
I do think it's quite a, big thing that we've got to get used to a bit of squad rotation. We can see where the quality of what we brought in is the next level up. So, yeah, we'll just go from there and look, let's enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly, lads. We've got 3 points to start the season. We couldn't have asked for any better. 3 goals, no goals conceded, 3 points, as I say, and onwards and upwards for next week, which we'll cover later on in the week ourselves. But thanks for joining me, lads. It means a lot as usual. So thanks to you joining me, Kev.
Yeah, no, pleasure, mate.
Excellent. Thanks to you, Robin.
Well, thanks, mate. It's a pleasure. It was great seeing you all at the stadium again. It's been a while since that day at Wembley when we all met up, sort of like last time. And yeah, to meet up again in the Premier League, all wearing our new shirts and that. Look, I'm over the moon.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks to everyone else for listening in. Just remember, obviously, you know where to get your pods from. Spotify, Apple, other podcasters out there. And also you can find us still on YouTube. So thanks for everyone for listening. And as ever, we'll see you on the next one.